When you talk about the problem that small businesses have when they get locked in silos, it happens a lot because as you grow, you're adding more systems to do different things, right? So maybe you start a business and there's like 2 or 3 of you and you have like one system and maybe a payroll system, right? And then as you grow, you're adding different systems to do different functions in the organization. And the next thing you know, you find yourself, you're 75 employees, you're a couple locations, and now you've got 5 or 6 different systems that are being used to do different functions inside of the business. And what you find is that you create these divisions around those systems and the responsibilities that they have. And so those divisions now very much operate in a silo. And because you're a smaller business, one of the things that you don't have is an ecosystem where these different systems talk to each other and pass information back and forth. You might have a few integrations, or some of them might have come with out-of-the-box connectors that connect to some of your other systems like your QuickBooks or your NetSuite or whatever. But the problem is that you really get into the spot where people are doing all of their own reporting, they're doing all their own measurements. You might get to a spot where one person in one group in the organization reports a key metric, and then somebody in another group reports another metric, and they're supposed to be the same thing, but you have a slightly different answer. And that's because you're very siloed in how you're looking at processes and data across the organization. And it becomes challenging because it creates a lack of trust in the data that you're seeing. It creates a lack of transparency and some confusion on what's actually happening. How are you actually performing in different areas? And it also prevents some levels of collaboration because there's no measurement of downstream impacts, right? Like when sales hands it off to delivery, or when the sales contracts flow downstream into your general ledger, like if you have these data silos, there isn't a clear understanding on what that means for the organization, or how the jobs that individual people in those divisions are doing really impacts the bottom line for the organization. And so it makes it more difficult to operate as a highly efficient organization if you're working in these very siloed environments. A great example of silos inside of a business causing issues is in financial service. So banking, credit unions, mortgage companies. An example of a common system stack inside of financial institutions is a mortgage loan origination system, a mortgage servicing system, a core banking platform. They're going to have a CRM, which is going to be like a Salesforce or a HubSpot. They're going to have their GL, which is going to be like a NetSuite or something like that. And there's other systems that can be introduced to those, but those are the primary ones. And what happens, a good example of this is in mortgages, you have the mortgage loan origination system where mortgages are originated. And at the closing date of a mortgage, it has the principal and interest balance, right? But then after that mortgage closes, it flows downstream into the mortgage servicing system. And then every single day, the mortgage servicing system updates the principal and interest balance because interest is accrued, they take payments, that number is constantly changing. Well, if you are in a branch and a customer comes in and they want to understand what their principal and interest balance is, right? Well, the true answer is, well, it depends on, did your loan close today, or did it close a few weeks ago, or did it close a few years ago, right? Because the number comes from different systems depending on where you are in that process. So if you don't have an ecosystem that breaks down those silos and actually ties all those data points together to create a single source of truth, then it's really difficult to have a full picture for what your customer profile and experience is, because you don't have all of the information put together with the right logic and the right information at your fingertips. And so it causes a lot of miscommunication with customers, because a lot of customers, after they do a mortgage in the banking world, call their mortgage loan originator, their mortgage loan officer, and ask them questions, but the mortgage loan officer doesn't actually have access to what their principal and interest balance is right now because it lives in the servicing system, right? So having those silos creates a lot of difficulties, not only in how you perform from a process perspective, but also in how you communicate with your customers about their experience.